Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I'm always excited for this show every year because no matter people's schedules, no matter what's going on in life, this is the one time of the year I feel like we get most of the guys on, and it's good to see some faces that I haven't seen in a while. I am joined by one of my habitual co-hosts above me, Mr. Nick Hudson, and then Rich. Mr. Rich Eberwine joins us tonight. And for the first time in the 2025 season, the Juice Man has made his presence felt. Gentlemen, how are you guys? Happy All-Star break. We got a great show ahead of us, but before we get into all that formalities, how's everybody doing, man? I missed you guys.
Doing good. Happy All-Star break.
The juice is loose. The Cubs are in first place, and the Brewers are being annoying as ever. So, it's kind of a normal season, but the Cubs are just first in run differential and second in run scoring. So, a lot to talk about, a lot to be happy about, a lot to be excited about, and we're heading into probably the most consequential month of the season. So, I'm pretty fucking excited about it. Not gonna lie.
Hell yeah, Juice.
What's going on? Yeah, to keep my on tap healthcare and to make sure that I come in and say, hey, it's been a while. No, in all seriousness, my life has been ridiculous. Ron knows this. I travel weekly for work. This is the first week I am home in my own bed in a weeknight in 8 weeks.
Sounds about right.
It's awful. But things are going good. The Cubs keep winning. And they keep me entertained on the road, so that's good. And I love me some MLB Draft. So when I saw that was part of the agenda for tonight, I had made sure I read up my stuff, and as I always follow it. But I wanted to make sure that I jumped on and shared my thoughts on this year's class, and then you'll be seeing a lot more than me, or more of me, in the second half. I promise you that.
Hell yeah! Well, we're very excited for that. It's good to have you. Good sir, we've dearly missed you, but yes, I remember us texting back and forth a couple times. That it was like right when you got back from Dubai, and you were like, "Oh, I just got off a plane from New York," like the week after, just craziness. So it's good to see you, friend, and it's exciting to talk baseball with you guys. Unfortunately, our other three comrades were not able to attend tonight, but Bobby, Joey, and Tyler all provided me their answers to some of our kind of topical, round the horn type questions that we'll get to a little bit later in the show. So I'll share those on their behalfs when we get there. And an early because it's tomorrow, but you might be listening to us in podcast form, and it might be Tuesday. Happy birthday, Tyler Edmonds. It's part of the reason he's not with us tonight, celebrating the birthday with unfortunately having to work during his birthday tomorrow. So a big shout out, big happy birthday to Mr. Edmonds. Gentlemen, before we get into some of the All-Star stuff, before we get into some of the MLB Draft stuff, the Cubs were incredibly encouraging over the weekend against the New York Yankees. Nick, you and I talked going into this kind of stretch here. You talked about how important it was. You wrote about it over at ontapsportsnet.com. They kind of shit the bed a little bit in that Minnesota Twins series, but they kind of got right on that Thursday game. Then a really bad Friday, but incredible work from the Cubs on Saturday and Sunday, virtually shutting down the New York Yankees. Matthew Boyd was spectacular with 8 innings of work. Shota Imanaga was spectacular with 7 innings of work on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. Guys, I mean, I don't know about you guys, especially following that Twins series. That was about as good as it could get, especially given how Friday went, for the Cubs to turn it around and win a series going into the All-Star break.
I'll go. Yeah, it was. It was fun, right? I just want to throw out a number here. The Cubs are 29-10 after a loss this year, and that's crazy impressive. That's a testament to your franchise, to your players, to your manager. I mean, Craig Counsell he's managing his butt off this year. If you would have told me that they would have lost Shota Imanaga for a really long stretch, Justin Steele for the rest of the year, I may have said that this team was somewhere near the cellar, let alone, a buyer going. We're talking about adding huge frontline pieces here. But let's be honest, guys. We had a lot of questions with the offense coming into this year. They've been extremely impressive over the course of this first half of the season. And you just look at Craig, and I mean, he's going to be really high up there in terms of, NL Manager of the Year for sure. Kind of negotiating and navigating through all this trouble with the starters and the arms and the inconsistency with, guys like Ben Brown who have filled in as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's a team in the Yankees that you hope you see again, because if you do, you're playing in the World Series. So you go into a hostile environment, a team that, you can get really distracted going to New York. You could look at that series and go, all right, we got smoked in game 1. We're 2 days away from the All-Star break. Let's phone it in. We're good. Like we're still going to be in this thing come, after the All-Star break. What does it matter? But no, Craig gets them ready to play, and 29-10. That just bodes so well for the playoffs too. You're not going to let something eat away at you, and beat you down. They're a team that bounces back, and I'll take a 75% win percentage any day when it comes to after a loss, because the Cubs' longest losing streak this year, 3 games. That's it. And if you look at that team across the diamond, they've lost 5, 6, 7 games in a row a couple times throughout this season in the Yankees. So you're looking at a very consistent Cubs team that realistically has a lot of ways to beat you. They run the bases. They can pitch on certain nights. And that lineup just seems to have somebody new step up every time they play some of these games. It's fun. I was really interested to watch that series. It's almost like a barometer for halfway through the season to see where your team's at. And you got to be impressed with, them getting blown out in game 1 and Belly handing it to you, kind of driving the dagger into you. And then just saying, well, screw it. We got 2 more. Let's lay it all on the line, go into the All-Star break, 2 out of 3 from the Yanks. And you're flying high if you're a Cub fan or if you're in that locker room.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Rich?
I mean, it's going off the point of Craig Counsell managing his ass off this year. I think it was also kind of a perfect time to switch up the lineup in this Yankee series, and it worked out really well. Nico Horner batting leadoff against lefties, I think that's perfect. Like, it was the perfect time to do it with Ian Happ struggling at the top there. And Horner has had a lot of success during the David Ross years at leading off. So I think he's more than capable of handling it. It is frustrating that your best guy with batting average with runners in scoring positions at the top, but you need somebody to set the table, and he did it pretty well in those couple of games against the Yankees. And then Michael Busch batting leadoff too was pretty fun, and it worked out really well again. Hit a leadoff home run. So yeah, Craig Counsell has been doing a great job, and it helps when Matthew Boyd is pitching like an ace too, going 8 innings against the Yankees. Man, was I wrong about Matthew Boyd. Holy crap. He's got himself an all-star game nod. So yeah, that's another one of my favorite parts about the first half, Matthew Boyd's ascendance to the top of the Cubs starting rotation. And that's a move that's paying dividends right now.
Definitely. You mentioned, just the ebbs and flows, and shades of Anthony Rizzo, dare we say, with Michael Busch in the leadoff spot, which was kind of fun over the weekend. But yeah, man, I mean, the pitching is what really stepped up. Nick, anything else you want to add here?
Yeah, not too much to add on to both your points. Just bouncing off what you said, they always find a way to, after a really devastating loss, come back and look good. And that's kind of a difference maker of this year for me, is just you have that bad vibes game where you lose 11-0 on Friday, and you feel like things are slipping away after the Minnesota series. You got the Brewers just on fire. You feel like things are going to go wrong for the rest of the weekend, and then they just find a way. Shota puts the team on his back. Boyd puts the team on his back. And, they've just been able to get it done. So it's been fun to watch. I mean, this first half has been a really fun time to watch.
Absolutely. I can't agree with you guys more. I think the only thing I really want to kind of elaborate on is Matthew Boyd, genuinely, because I think what was the most impressive part about his first half is that arguably his best performance came right before the All-Star break, right? Like, you need him most. You had a terrible game on Friday where you just get your doors blown off in the Bronx. To your point, Juice, they could have just phoned it in. Hey, we're good. We're going to be fine after the All-Star break. Let's coast in this thing. Maybe we win 1 out of 2 over the weekend. We don't get swept and we'll be fine. And maybe we're a game up on the Brewers when it's all said and done. No, instead they came ready to play, and Matthew Boyd gives you 8 innings of work. Like, this was a guy that I remember when he was a Tiger, he was never a guy to go deep into games, right? He was the strikeout guy. He was the, I'm going to only be able to give you 5, maybe 6, because I'm going to get to 100 pitches pretty quickly. And instead, he's conformed into this complete pitcher where he has his games, right? We've seen that recently where, maybe he only gives you 5 or 6, but he strikes out 9 or 10. And then he gives you games like Saturday where he just puts it all out on the line, kind of the balls on the table type mentality, and gives you a huge victory. And then that kind of sets the table for now a healthy Shota Imanaga, who fully looks like Shota Imanaga now after a couple of starts. He's back to throwing 7 innings routinely and also shuts down the Yankees. A 2-hit shutout on Sunday of the Yankees. The bullpen doesn't give up any hits, and Shota only gives up 2. Spectacular work. I can't emphasize enough how important I think that was, because I'm a real believer in momentum in sports. And if you don't get that momentum from those 2 guys over the weekend and those 2 big wins, I think there's a very different feeling from the team and that clubhouse, as well as the fan base coming out of the All-Star break, than there is right now, where everybody's kind of flying high and saying, son of a bitch, we just won 2 out of 3 against the Yankees. They split the road trip overall of 6 games. And now you get a little bit of home cooking right out of the All-Star break with 6 games at home against, a beatable opponent in the Kansas City Royals, but a really hot opponent in the Red Sox. But again, momentum's a beautiful thing. And sometimes that's perfect when you got a good team coming in on Friday to Wrigley Field. So I completely agree with you guys. I think great series from the Cubs overall. It kind of encapsulated, I think, what the first half was all about in a 3-game stretch of, they don't get too down on themselves. They don't get overwhelmed by losses, is noted with the 29-10. That is just such an impressive record. I was listening to Pat and Ron on Sunday, and I think Pat mentioned that figure like 6 times on the radio broadcast because of how just mind-boggling and impressive it is from the Cubbies. So incredible stuff there. Shifting a little bit here, because again, we do want to get to some of the fun here and more of the putting some opinions on the line that we can revisit at the end of the season, just like Nick's bold prediction going into the year and how fucking fantastic that looks. But gentlemen, MLB Draft, it is come and gone. All 20 rounds now complete in the books. The first 3 rounds took place on Sunday evening. The rest of the draft, rounds 4 through 20, took place today as we're recording this on Monday, which is Home Run Derby Day as well. And guys, Jed Hoyer had a type in this year's draft. A lot of college pitchers, a lot of guys with really nasty stuff, quite a few outfielders, especially early in the draft. Their first 4 of their first 6 picks were outfielders, 3 of which were collegiate outfielders on top of that. A couple of catchers, a third baseman really late in the draft. But other than that, it was pitchers. And that's pretty consistent with what we've seen from Jed. And they've talked about, you take a bunch of arms, and if a couple work out, things are in good shape. But it started to build a little bit of a dialogue over the last day or so now of what could happen at the trade deadline, backloading maybe some potential outfield talent that's to be dealt. But without further ado, I turn it over to you guys. I genuinely want to hear. I am nauseous about the draft because every article that you've seen over at OnTapSports.com was my doing. I'm good. I don't really have much that I will add. I'll probably save it for like next Sunday's show and maybe give some thoughts when I can breathe about it a little bit. But I want to give you guys the floor here and share what you guys think about the 20 rounds of the Cubs draft in the 2025 iteration of the event.
I mean, to your going off one of those points there, I mean, taking as many outfielders as they did early just tells me that they are anybody and everybody on that top 30 prospects list, specifically the guys at the top, like Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara, are probably going to be gone soon. And rightfully so, honestly, because this is supposed to be a win now mode. This is like a push all your chips in and cash in, get what you can at the deadline, fill all the holes that you can, specifically starting pitching and relief pitching. So those guys are going to be gone. Like they're not going to be able to get a quality starting pitcher probably without trading Owen Casey. Like teams are going to want that guy, and it's just the price of doing business right now. So I think that's what, it goes into choosing so many outfielders in the draft early on, is like just beefing up that outfield depth in anticipation for losing a lot of guys at the top of that chart. Ethan Conrad, the guy that they chose first round, it's a risk, obviously, because he's coming off shoulder surgery. But, Jed Hoyer and the Cubs front office are not one to not do their homework on a guy like that. And that just tells me that the medicals are good and he's progressing well. Knock on wood that he comes back and looks like the guy that he did in college, because he does have a nice stroke and left-handed power hitter. Hopefully that dude turns into, a corner outfielder of the future, right? Sooner rather than later. That's the hope, obviously. And then taking all those pitchers, it's just like lottery tickets to me. Like you're just trying to cash in on, like you said, at least 1, 2, or 3 of them. And if it works out like that, that was a successful draft. So yeah, those are kind of my initial impressions on the draft so far.
Most definitely. I will quickly note, I think the one guy that I was impressed by a little bit that I didn't think I would be impressed by was their 3rd round pick, Dominic Reed. He's got a nasty changeup, throws it about as often as his fastball, and he's got a third offering that's not quite there yet, but it screams something that the Cubs can work with in the pitch lab. And upon reading that, I was like, oh, a guy who throws his changeup just as much as he does his fastball and he sits in the low 90s. Are we just getting the 2025 iteration of what Kyle Hendricks was? Got me a little excited, I'm not going to lie. Juice, I know you're the prospect guy. How are you feeling about this?
I see a lot on Twitter too about the way that this went down and them picking outfielders. And I think there's a little bit to that, but I also think it's the way that the board kind of fell. I mean, 9 shortstops went before the Cubs even picked. It's a really deep draft for shortstops and for pitchers. And I think you could have got really good arms in the 3rd. They did. I really like that pick in Reed that they made in the 3rd. But I think too, like, this was just a guy that the Cubs looked at and said, he really can rake. I mean, he did play in the COD League with the wood bat already. And that's a huge Jed Hoyer checkpoint. Like, if you look back, Matt Shaw was the same way. Played in the Cape Cod League, and he was one of their, first choices too. So it's a prerequisite for Jed. I also think too that with how deep the pitchers are in this draft, you still got a good one in the 3rd, and you still got good ones deep into this draft. And two, if you look at their positional breakdown for the MLB or for the Cubs system right now currently, they don't really have a lot of depth at the pitcher position after Wiggins, and some people like Birdsell. I'm not super high on him. I think he's a good serviceable arm, but after that, there's really just not a lot of guys that you truly like pencil in as like that's can't miss. And even Wiggins has his kind of hit and misses as well with, finding the strike zone and getting down his number of walks as well. So I like the route they went in the 2nd as well. I'm blanking on the kids like comp to steal bases and play defense.
That would be Kane Kepley.
Yes. And if you talk about what I look at the way that Jed drafts is trying to be ahead of where baseball is going. And this game has turned more into athletes being out there than your Daniel Vogelbachs of the world that, eat up part of that lineup. And don't get me wrong, there's points for those guys in a lineup. And with the DH, they'll be fine. But I feel like the number of athletes you could put on a baseball field are just so valuable when the bases are bigger and your people are running more. I mean, look at the Cubs. The Cubs are running like crazy this year. And we've been on this show for 4 years now, screaming, you have speed, run more. I look at like defensive runs saved in the outfield and along the diamond. Like the Cubs are going to have a good defensive alignment around the diamond for a while, as long as they have Dansby and Nico and, Shaw's kind of blossomed into that. And Michael Busch has always been, a mainstay at first, but you look out in that outfield and it just seems like if you can find value out there defensively, you're already ahead of the game. Like, look at PCA. We're talking about how he's blossomed offensively. That's great. That takes a while for a lot of guys, and he's maybe an anomaly for that. But you can always find people to throw out there to have defensive replacement value being added late in the game or in a steal situation. I mean, I always go back to the Red Sox in 2003 when they won the whole thing, and having that speed on the bench. Maybe this is a guy later on, maybe not this year or next year, that adds speed. But the way the game's going, it's just line up as many athletes as you can and then move them all around. Like, who's to say that any of these guys that they drafted are married to play in the outfield? No, they're not. I mean, how many times do we watch outfielders move from outfield to first base? It happens
Often.
so often. So, I mean, we talked about Owen Casey being the candidate. So, I don't know. I think, yeah, it probably signals that the Cubs are going to deal from either Alcantara or Casey. But, yeah, that's kind of a given if you look at their prospect rankings. But also, if you look, where the game's going, add speed, and outfielders are athletic. They can move all around. So, yeah, get guys that maybe people passed on due to injury or because they wanted to draft a shortstop or they like the pitcher better. And maybe you're finding value in that outfielder that, everybody passed on. And then that ends up being a superstar. So, yeah, I liked what they did. I just wished I saw more top velo out of the pitchers that they selected. They selected a lot of guys with secondary pitches that are developed in hopes of putting them in the pitch lab and adding 2 to 3 miles per hour, which is fine. You can go that route. And there are people out there who can teach you how to throw the ball harder. But I mean, I would have rather give me the God-given talent. And then after that, I'll figure out how to throw a slider opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, very fair. Nick, I ask you maybe with a little bit of a different lens here as well.
Sure.
When you look at this draft and you look at what the Cubs did, are you surprised? Do you get the same kind of fuzzy feeling? Because here's where I ask this, and I think this is something we'll probably end up kicking the tires on a little bit more when it's all said and done. Does this signal that the Cubs are going to be like hyper aggressive? Because to me, this says we took 2 catchers, we took 4 outfielders, and then a shit ton of pitchers. Like, is Jackson Wiggins a potential piece to be dealt at the deadline? Is Birdsell getting dealt at the deadline? Are both Kevin Alcantara and Owen Casey getting dealt at the deadline? Is Moises Ballesteros getting dealt at the deadline? To me, I read this kind of between the lines and I go, everything is on the table.
Yeah.
In terms of who they could move from the prospect pool, because this draft to me was we're backfilling positions that we're going to lose at this year's deadline.
Oh yeah. I agree 100%. My eyes lit up as I was watching, the notifications come in of who they were taking and who they were going with. I really like the structure of the draft and how they had their battle plan and the way that they went about it, starting with the outfielders, because, that's where you're top heavy in prospects. Like, that's where your top guys are. I think it signals that everything's on the table. I really do think that Casey and Alcantara are both gone. I think that this is a year that, and I've said it before this year, and I've written about it too, and I'm going to stand by it. I think they caught lightning in the bottle. The guys are playing past what they would on the back of the baseball cards. Things are falling right for them. They had a really good first half. They have to be really aggressive and take a hold of this and just win this division, because you don't want to be in that wild card race at all. You don't even want to have that be an option. So you go out and you fill some holes, and you got holes. I mean, you saw it at the later part of the first half that there are holes that are there to be filled. But, other than that, I mean, I really liked your piece at On Tap Sportsnet about the 3rd round Dominic Reed. That was a great arm that they went with. That was one that kind of sparked my interest as well. And it was awesome to see, but I really enjoyed how they went about this draft, and it really did signal to me that they're going to be really aggressive at the deadline, which is exactly what I wanted to see. I want them to be the most aggressive team at the deadline, because I think that if they do that, then they do have the potential to go and win the World Series, and it's not even a joke. I think they do.
I'm glad you said about players kind of exceeding the back of their baseball card, because I think people look at the team's lineup and they go, well, Kyle Tucker's performing like Kyle Tucker, and PCA's on the trajectory that people thought he would be. But it's not so much those guys, right? It's
Suzuki.
It's Seiya Suzuki finally having the career season that people were hoping he would have. It's Michael Busch, a 939 OPS at the All-Star break. Insanity, right? It's Carson Kelly having a monster offensive season when that dude has been maybe a league average catcher in terms of the bat for most of his career. You absolutely want to take advantage of those things. And that's it. And this is a shorthanded Cubs team right now, right? No Miguel Amaya, obviously no Justin Steele. You didn't have Shota Imanaga for a long period of time. No Jameson Tyone. You want to be hyper aggressive. And the draft strategy is good because you look around the rest of their top rankings, right? They had those seasons of drafting a ton of shortstops. They had those seasons of drafting, they've continued to draft a lot of pitchers. So they kind of pivoted and they kind of said, you know what, we're going to backfill some of that talent. And Juice, I love what you said again about like Jed Hoyer kind of predicting the future. Every one of the outfielders that they drafted is either a hyper good athlete, either on the base path like Kepley, or they're all incredible bat to ball guys with good swing decisions. They all had a type, even if they're all a little different. Some guys with more power than others, some more speed than others. But at the end of the day, that was the one common ground that all these guys had. They're great swing decision guys at the plate, good plate discipline. They know how to take the right pitches. They can get to just about anything in the strike zone. And then on top of that, a lot of these guys played in the Cape Cod. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is something that is on record that Jed Hoyer in the front office values, are guys that play well in the Cape Cod. And all these guys were those type of guys. Because let's be real. For example, their 5th round pick, the kid from Alabama, Cade Snell, I believe is his name. Cade Snell, I believe. Was like the 227th ranked draft pick, and they took him at like the 120-something pick. But they liked the player. He had a really good Cape Cod, and that kind of fits the bill of what the Cubs like. And they all of them were also left-handed hitters, which I thought was just kind of funny too. The only right-handed hitter they got was the kid that they got from the high school level, but he's a switch hitter, so we kind of went a little bit different there. But he was the MLB high school home run derby winner, which was pretty dope if you ask me. So I think there's some pop there, right? And you would hope you could sign that guy because he was a 6th round pick when it's all said and done. So a lot to be said there. And I kind of want to keep kicking this tire really quick before we get into some of our some of our segment stuff here, especially for Juice and Rich, because Nick, I think you answered it beautifully, and I've shared my piece. Like, are we predicting X names to leave, or do you think this is just completely contingency plan of like, if we decide to move on from X, Y, and Z, we've got more talent that came in? Or was this just maybe that's where they saw the glaring needs, because you've got a lot of these kids that are kind of ready to graduate, right? Like we talk about Owen Casey's on kind of knocking on the door of the majors. Kevin Alcantara has kind of been that way for a little bit. Like at one point we were talking about the top 7 prospects were all at AAA. So what is kind of your guys' philosophy with how they approach the draft and what that could mean for the trade deadline?
I think it's both, right? I mean, it's got to be, you like the player. You don't draft somebody just for one thing. You don't just say, all right, well, I'm losing an outfielder, I need to get an outfielder. You draft because you like the player, and then it opens you up to do other things. I think that's kind of the way that Jed kind of looks at it. I also think too that the way the baseball rules are structured, it makes you do things like this, because eventually a lot of these guys are going to be Rule 5 eligible, and you got to make decisions on keeping them on the roster, or you move on and grab somebody else to, help your ball club up for a nice long run. I mean, for example, like James Triantos could be Rule 5 eligible. Like that's a name that it would not surprise me if they're floating out there aggressively, because they do have tons of depth in middle infield in their system between, Jefferson Rojas, between Fernando Cruz. You can go on and on. Christian Hernandez. Like they have a lot of shortstops in their system that if they really wanted to kick over to play second base, they can play second base. They can play third base. We've seen that with Shaw too. So I think if you look at just the way the system is just kind of designed, I mean, you look at their top five: Owen Casey, Moises Ballesteros, Jefferson Rojas, Kevin Alcantara, James Triantos. Those 5 names are the ones that teams are going to come and say, all right, we're going to build off this guy and then add in 2 more guys. And I think that what the draft does is it gives you the option to do it. Like if you went and drafted nothing but pitchers early, I don't think that entices general managers currently in the markets that need help with prospects or younger talent as much as that outfield bat, because you kind of know what you're getting, opposed to a pitcher can blow his arm out, whenever, and you don't know what you're getting back for maybe a really high-end front starter that you really liked with control. A lot of these guys that the Cubs are looking into have 2 to 3 years of control. You better make sure that you get something back that has value and adds value immediately. And I think position players do that far more earlier in their MLB careers than starters do. It takes a long time. We're seeing it with Jordan Wicks. You've seen ups and downs with Cade Horton. It just takes time to pitch at the MLB level. Look at Justin Steele. Look at his long, development and how long it took him to cement himself within the league. Pitching is just so difficult to predict. So these position players just seem to add more value on the trade market. And even if none of these guys that they picked for the outfield ever play a game with the Cubs system, it's the way the board fell, and it also is the way that the values in the MLB for GMs to me just seem to be skewed. Position players just seem to have more value, and I think that's just the way it's going to be for a long. Remember how Theo built it? He drafted position players and bought the pitching. So I think Jed's been a student of that, and he knows how less risk averted drafting a position player is opposed to taking a huge swing on a pitcher. And go ahead and buy the pitching after that. Just stack your deck with position players that are athletes that can play anywhere, and you'll figure it out later. You have a A-plus manager to do it. Put that on his desk and make him figure that out.
I will say this. I do like, though, the one difference that I think Jed has done is it's take the calculated swings on the position players that you really like, and then just take a bunch of pitchers, because like I think it was you, Rich, that said it before we jumped on, right? The lottery tickets. Like that's all these guys are. They're lottery tickets. So you get a bunch of them and you draft 12 of them in a 20-round draft, and then you sit back and say, okay, if 2 of these guys give us anything at the big league level, we're happy, right? Like we're doing something here. And I think that's critically important. Rich, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, just going off the point of like acquiring something at this deadline, if you're asking for a starting pitcher who's under team control for multiple years, then guys like Owen Casey and Kevin Alcantara are probably going to be a part of that trade package because they're the most valuable ones, in my opinion. I'm talking like, I don't know who they're going to get, but like I'm hoping they're asking for guys like Joe Ryan or Pablo Lopez. Like, are they going to get them? Who knows? Like, you have to ask, though, right? I mean, the Marlins, Sandy Alcantara and Cabrera, those types of players are what you ideally want. And if you're acquiring a guy like that with 2 more seasons of team control, you bet your ass Owen Casey's probably not going to be in this Cubs system anymore. The Rule 5 thing is also interesting too, because like to your point, Juice, Triantos is Rule 5 eligible in December, and there's no room for him on the roster right now, basically. A couple other guys who are also Rule 5 eligible this year are Connor Nolan and Brandon Birdsell, starting pitchers in AAA. Also will be interesting to see if those guys get moved or are part of trade packages or whatever, because Nolan has been one of the most consistent pitchers for the AAA the last couple seasons. Hasn't been particularly great, but he's logging a lot of innings. And Birdsell just got back from an injury and is pitching. He's only pitched in 2 games, but relatively okay. So I don't know. This deadline is, I don't know. It's got me really excited. I know the Cubs are gonna make some kind of splash, right? Like, and maybe even a few. Like, starting pitching is a must. Relief pitching is also, you could use another closer in that bullpen, and third base also could use an upgrade. Imagine Eugenio Suarez in the middle of this Cubs lineup with 30 home runs already. Oh my God, we would be nasty.
It would be crazy. I think you said it best, right? Like, the guys that the Cubs are looking at, and this is also coming from reports from very reliable sources, right? Patrick Mooney, Sahadev Sharma, like, both said it in their Athletic article. Like, the Cubs are approaching the deadline like they have in recent years, which is guys with control. They don't want to just go get, not to say they won't go get a full rental player as maybe one of 2 or 3 moves that they make.
Yeah.
But they also, if they're going to go swing big, they're going to go swing big on a guy that's got control. So to your point, a Joe Ryan, I think, is a great example. And you got a team like the Twins who can kind of fill 2 of your 3 voids, right? You can get a Yohan Duran, and you can get a Joe Ryan in the same trade, but you best be ready to pay up with James Triantos.
I'd sell the farm for those 2.
100%, right? So it's like, and that's what I think that's what we get the feeling of this with this draft is like, all right, Jed Hoyer is very clearly ready to depart with some top prospect talent here and get guys that are going to help you now, but are still going to help you in 26 and then potentially 27, whenever the fuck we have baseball after the impending strike, and so on and so forth, right? So having those guys around it is going to be critically important. I do want to get to a couple
and
of
two, Ron, real quick to add to that whole Twins, mess with that. If you look at their prospect rankings for 2025, their top prospect, Walker Jenkins, is not going to be in the MLB until 2026 at earliest. He's an outfielder. Manuel Rodriguez, 22 in AAA, looking, to make a splash. But they need help. And they have a lot of guys that are in their tops who are 22, 24, 22, 20, and don't seem to have the pedigree that an Owen Casey would have, or a Kevin Alcantara. You really want to boost that system, then that's a trade partner that I think kind of fits. Yeah. That's the other thing with these deals. We're talking about Owen Casey and Alcantara. If systems don't need outfielders, it's a tough sell. You're already fighting uphill. It's all about finding who fits. I think that Twins call out is a really close fit. And that's one that is interesting too, because didn't they sell, or the team's up for sale, or there's
like talks of them getting sold? Because I know the Ishbias were like in on that before that deal with Reinsdorf went through or whatever. But yeah, I think they are like actively trying to be sold or something.
But and don't think that like things like that don't impact day-to-day baseball spending or setting that next group up for the future, because that's just the way these things work. Like, very rarely does a well-oiled machine like the Dodgers go up for sale. Like, that's just not how baseball works. So yeah, I think like looking at needs, you could look at Owen Casey or Kevin Alcantara in that lineup as early as this year when they make that trade, if they make that trade, and say, let's give our Twins fans something to cheer for. And they struggle to score. We saw them recently, and that team just doesn't. They need help in that lineup, and that's a big lefty bat that would get that process started. And that division's weird too, right? You got to look at Detroit as 2 to 3 years of they're probably in go win now mode. 100%. So if you're Minnesota, you're kind of caught in that no man's land of, do I pay a bunch to be in third, or do I tear this thing down and sell some of my assets to get it moving? And
still
maybe that's the case. Yeah. And still be in third. No, right. 100%. So I think them and like the Royals too are a really interesting trade partner for the Cubs that I don't know if they're looking for Seth Lugo to be moved, but I mean I'd be calling up the AL Central for both of those guys and getting those two teams in a bidding war, and then maybe you save a prospect by doing that, and maybe you bring home, some value both ways, and that's how Jed Hoyer kind of plays the game of, yeah, I'm trying to buy, but you got to still sell to me. So It's an interesting spot for Jed to be in, but yeah, I would love that Minnesota deal. I really would.
There's a deal to be had there. I mean,
yeah.
They got a -8 run differential right now, and Owen Casey would probably be at the big league level if we didn't have 2 all-star outfielders starting. There's just no room for him. Like he's
or a left fielder with a no trade clause. That's
exactly. I mean,
as much as I love Happer, don't get me wrong.
For sure. No, I mean, especially after this home run stretch that Owen Casey's been on, like he looks pretty much ready for the big leagues.
Isn't it funny that I believe it was Greg Huss that brought this up on X the other day, that a Cubs prospect had a great home run stretch before departing the organization in Cam Smith, and it feels like Owen Casey's the next one to do it. It's a little bit comical. Nick, I do want to hear from you here as well as a rebuttal. I just really quick want to get to a couple comments just to give some love to those that are watching along with us. Our good buddy Steve here says, just keep Dansby around the 7th or 8th spot. LOL. That was from a little bit earlier. Juice, Darren's very excited to see you back, Juice, as we all are. Darren with a couple more comments. He says, I think Nick is right. Cubs core is playing at a level Jed and company was praying for last year, 100%. And he says either Bruhan or Birdie and probably Turner will open some infield roster spots come December as well. Certainly something interesting to keep in mind there. And Scott says, I have convinced him that Duran will be walking out to win the NLCS in Wrigley for the Cubbies, which would be lovely. Would be lovely. But Nick, I mean, keeping this kind of conversation here going before we get to some more of the other good stuff. Is there a deal that outside of maybe this Twins one that you've got your eyeballs on? Because like I know me personally, the backup deal, right? If you don't get exactly what you want, to me, the Twins ones where they pay the most. I look at Pittsburgh and I say, well, you have Bednar and you have Keller there.
Yeah.
That you can kind of do the same thing, but it might not be the same level as a Joe Ryan and a Yohan Duran, but it still accomplishes kind of the same thing when it's all said and done.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way. I mean, I was looking at Pittsburgh. I was also, the Diamondbacks are another really interesting one. With Suarez, I wrote an article about how big it would be to get him. I know he's a rental, but if you do just get one rental, he's the guy that you want to go and get. And maybe you get Merrill Kelly with him. So that's another possibility there that I would be targeting. But
could you convince, and this is from an old friend of ours, Mr. Cody Del Mendo. I know he's on the Zach Gallen for cash considerations train because of how bad he's been this year. Yeah. Is there a world where the Cubs can somehow magically get Gallen and Kelly and Suarez all in the same deal and just make the trade of all trades with the Arizona Diamondbacks?
I hate the way that those two franchises line up, though. If you look at what the first pitcher on the prospect list for Arizona is at 11. Like if they're making deals, to me, they're looking for starting pitching. And I just don't think that the Cubs have that in their system to trade that way.
Interested in Jordan Wicks.
Yeah, but with the way
he's Ben Brown.
Or Ben.
Yeah, or Ben Brown. Yep.
Maybe, but I think even Ben Brown would probably fall within 10 to 11, and you're looking at 3 huge names. You're gonna need way more than that to get that deal done. I just don't see Arizona as a good trade partner as much as I want to, but I mean their infield outfield is just stacked, and I mean Diaz that's like their only pitcher.
I was looking at the Braves earlier. What if we got a little Raisel Iglesias in the back of our bullpen to pair with Daniel Palencia? A guy with 235 career saves, I wouldn't hate that. He'd be a rental, but
not at all.
If you want to talk about an organization that has next to no positional prospects, they have nothing but pitching.
Yeah.
There you go.
Steve, our buddy Steve here says, is giving up Casey for a 1-year rental third baseman like Suarez worth it, though, especially if the Cubs don't sign Tucker? I don't think Casey's going in a rental deal. Like if it's Suarez, I think the highest prospect you would see go in that deal is a guy somewhere around like 10, 11, 12, 13 on the Cubs list. If it's
Yeah.
a pure rental. Like if they're giving up Owen Casey, it's a guy with like 4 years of team control, 3 years of team control. That's, I think, where an Owen Casey comes into play. And that's why Joe Ryan's interesting, because Ryan's got this year, and then I think he's what, ARB2, ARB3, ARB4 afterwards. So you've got 3 more years of control after this. And he's 25.
Just imagine that, and then going into next season, you have like Shota, Joe Ryan, Steele, Tyone, and then like Matthew Boyd is your 5th starter.
Yeah, who was just coming off an all-star campaign.
Yeah.
Like
Cade Horton in the bullpen as your long reliever. Like, that's so nasty.
That's insane.
Oh, it's crazy.
Maybe you look into just getting Tyone off the books for something in that moment.
And you would have the flexibility to do that in that scenario, which is crazy.
Yeah, you really would. So, again, I think that speaks to how fascinating this deadline's going to be, and we're certainly going to be talking about it a little bit more. I might throw you guys a curveball here at the end that wasn't on our list of talking topics for the day when it comes to trade deadline. Just to kick the old soccer ball around the playground here and see what you guys are thinking about the deadline. But let's get into some of the fun, shall we? Because a little bit earlier we all talked about, what are the Cubs gonna, what are some of the things that we liked or didn't like, and this, that, and the other. And so we put together some like first half thoughts kind of ideas here, and some of this is also second half related as well. So this is very much just kind of throwing it around the horn, go into as little or as much detail as you would like. If you feel like you're repeating yourself, you've probably talked too long, but neither here nor there. Outside of that, I think we're just going to swing this thing around. I also have, again, to these questions, the answers from Tyler, Joey, and Bobby. So at the very end, I will share those in regards to those 3 as well with these. So we'll just kind of go in different orders. We're just gonna play popcorn like when you're 5th grade reading class. I'm just gonna pick you, and if you're ready, you're ready, and if you're not, you're ready, whether you like it or not. But our first one is the biggest surprise of the first half. And Nick, I'm going to throw this one to you first. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of crossovers here, which is okay. Totally okay. But I do want to give you the nod first here. What is your biggest surprise of the first half?
The power 100%. I mean, we were last year going, where's the power outage? We had so many different things on our titles about no power, begging for it. And coming into this year, we had Tucker and we were excited about it. We thought we'd get a little bit more, but I did not expect the kind of power surge that we've gotten. It makes sense having Tucker, having a bat like that in the lineup. It makes everyone better. But it's just shocking to see the power and honestly, just the offensive performance altogether. Just crazy how we just have one of the top offenses in the MLB. I didn't expect that. So that was, for me, that was the biggest surprise for sure out of everything.
Hell yeah. Juice?
I think the catcher position. I was the one person who was on the show saying the Cubs still don't have a catcher. And if you look at wins above replacement, Carson Kelly, 2.7, Miguel Amaya in the 100 plate appearances before he got hurt, still 1-win player. Even Reese McGuire, worth half a win in his limited 63 at-bats. Carson Kelly has been unbelievable. I mean, you're talking about OPS plus of 158. His career average is 93 for OPS plus. I mean, that he potential all-star snub, really, when you look at it. He got a lot of votes, I think it's second at one point in all-star voting. But I said on this show, and I said the Cubs don't have a catcher. I don't know where it's coming from because I didn't believe in Carson Kelly to this extent. But I mean, you're talking about a guy who's hit 4th in this lineup. He's at 3rd. He's been back there so many games. I mean, that's the other thing, too, that he's really, since Miguel Amaya being kind of on the shelf for as long as he's already played 62 games. That's a lot of games for a catcher. And to continue to have good at-bats and, bring power at random times and still hit for a decent average for a catcher. I mean, that's 100%. I didn't believe in it, and that's my biggest surprise because I worried about that position, and now it's one of the least that I have on the agenda for them to fix. You know, even going into next year, because he's signed through 26. So, I mean, if he can continue to keep doing what he's doing, yeah, that's Carson Kelly has been my biggest surprise, along with Miguel Amaya and Mr. in the parking lot, Pokey Reese.
I believe the term that's been thrown around in one of the Cubs chats that I am a part of, and I think a few of us are, our good friend Will of the program here. I believe he has a jersey with his number on it called it says Carjacker. So
that's a good one.
Genuinely a good chuckle from that one. Rich, your biggest surprise?
I think I'm gonna go with the way the bullpen has shaken out. I mean, you go into every year and the bullpen never turns out exactly the way you expect it to, right? But I remember thinking that the bullpen was gonna be like fine, but I wasn't expecting them to like resurrect careers like the way that they've done this year. Like Brad Keller is the main example. There's just somebody mentioned earlier about like teaching a guy to throw faster. His average fastball velo the last 2 seasons was 94 mph. It's 97 this year. Like that is some tread athletics, is Tyler Zombro shit that they're doing with Brad Keller that has completely transformed him, and he's our main setup pitcher now. And then another guy that Zombro was talking about like wanting to work with was Daniel Palencia, like who we've always seen have the potential, right? He had the velocity, but he's just like put it all together, and like he just came out guns blazing this year with a fastball with life on it and is able to locate it in the zone and avoid the Luke Little problem of just walking a ton of people. And he's turned into a lockdown closer, basically. 1.5 ERA, 39 strikeouts, and 34. Like, that's insane. That's insane stuff. And then not to mention Drew Pomeranz, who, you know, congrats, just gave up his first earned run like a week ago or some shit like that. You know, I don't know. This is the way that those 3 stories have come together to like solidify the back end of the bullpen is just kind of insane to me.
We need the bullpens are weird t-shirt. Like, because honestly, we've talked about it on this show for what, 7 years, that bullpens are weird. They really
are weird. I think that's something that we can get in the works, Juice. I really do. I have very excellent faith that we can get that t-shirt in the works, and we'll get to that. I'm going to share the other 3 guys' biggest surprises really quick, and then I'll get to mine. We'll start with Joey's. He said the bullpen as a whole, so very similar to yours, Rich, as well. He says incredibly surprising, you know, all the way around from the guys who have struggled to the guys who have dominated. So, you know, I think names to add to what you mentioned there, Rich, right? Chris Flexen, I think, is another name that has blown the doors off for people. Really, everybody in that bullpen. If you look at the ERA numbers for most of those guys, it is kind of mind-boggling. Like Ryan Presley, I think, has the worst ERA amongst all the bullpen guys, and he still has like a 3-something, and it's just because of one really bad outing.
Yeah.
So
his whip's a little high. He gets a lot of traffic, but ERA is
still getting it done though. Still making some things happen. Bobby's biggest surprise is Matthew Boyd as a Tyler's. We know Tyler was a avid Matthew Boyd hater in the offseason, and he has admitted his wrongs on a number of occasions. Scott agrees with those 2. He says Boyd, end of story. You know, I'll tell you what, I think my biggest surprise this season, I would love to say Matthew Boyd, but I feel like, Juice, when you were on that episode with myself and Tyler, and we did the I'm going to call it the professor lecture of, you know, what the Cubs see and what things that, like, when the Cubs, I feel like when they have a guy that they feel adamant about and there's clearly something there that they like, maybe not necessarily expected Matthew Boyd to be an all-star, but I expected him to at least be solid. And he's absolutely done that. He's exceeded that expectation. A 2.34 ERA speaks volumes to that. I think for me, the guy, though, the surprise for me from this first half really has been how good Michael Busch has been. Like, I expected Michael Busch to be good. Michael Busch carried an 800 plus OPS for most of last season. I believe he finished around like 820 or something like that, 830 maybe. Like, I knew Michael Busch was going to be a good player. I didn't know Michael Busch was going to be a great player. And he's really taking that step forward. A 939 OPS is ludicrous.
Leading
At
the
the
team.
first baseman. Yeah. Like I'm on a team with 2 all-stars in Kyle Tucker and PCA, and he still has the best OPS. And sure, maybe he has a couple less games played, but it's not that astronomical. He has put it together. And I'll tell you what, man, I know a lot of people like the dog Jed, but son of a bitch, that trade looks genius in hindsight now.
Yeah.
Because sure, you gave up Zaire Hope, who has been very good in the Dodgers system, and you gave up Jackson Ferris, who's kind of struggled, believe it or not, in the Dodgers system. And sure, Juice's guy Yency Almonte only stuck around for a little bit. I think he's still in the system on a minor league deal.
I believe he is.
But still kind of trying to figure it out, obviously working back from the injury. But the fact that Michael Busch has turned into like borderline the second coming of Anthony Rizzo in terms of he's a great defensive first baseman. I mean, he's among the defensive run saved leaders over the last 2 seasons at the position. And now the bat has gotten to a point where he's an elite first baseman in this league. Nobody could have projected that as a fan. And again, I expected Michael Busch to be a good player. I didn't expect Michael Busch to be like borderline lapping the guy that was blocking him in Los Angeles in terms of numbers.
It's
And
so
so for
ridiculous,
me, I think
too, that he's not an all-star, but Freddie Freeman is. Like, I'm sorry, I love Freddie Freeman.
Sure.
But, like, if you flipped the stats, like, if you showed the stats to, like, it blacked out the names, you would pick Michael Busch 1,000 times out of 1,000. It's just so ridiculous. It's the fact that, like, it's L.A. and it's freaking Freddie Freeman. Like, everybody in the world loves Freddie Freeman, which is fine. I love Freddie Freeman, too. But, I mean, he's not having an all-star season in comparison to Michael Busch. He's just not.
The fact that he didn't even make the reserve list is kind of insane because he has better stats than Matt Olson, too.
Yeah. Like, that
Snub.
one I get, though, because of, like, all Atlanta and, like, it being there. But, like, just
Fuck that.
It's so
It's
stupid.
a snub.
It is. It's so stupid. Like, honestly, if you look at those names that are on the list that the Cubs actually, like, made the all-star team and, like, Tucker – like Michael Busch is more deserving, in my opinion, than maybe PCA and Tucker. I mean, you can make that case. I don't know if it's. I mean, obviously, with the way that PCA plays in his, MLB lore now, it seems like he's a household name. So is Tucker. But like, if you look at like I said again, if you cover up the names and looked at stats, you probably would pick that Michael Busch makes the All-Star team before Kyle Tucker and PCA.
Dude has the third highest OPS in the National League.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, if the Cubs mess around and win a pennant or something, people will know Michael Busch's name.
100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I think it speaks to even going back to the argument that Nick had, right? Of like these guys are outperforming the baseball card. And maybe that's development, right? It's not always just an anomaly, but like the Carson Kellys of the world are those type of guys. Maybe the Seiya Suzuki's a little bit are those type of guys. Whereas you look at like a Michael Busch and a Pete Crow Armstrong and some of these other guys, and you say, maybe this is just the next step in the evolution of these guys. And that's huge for the future of the Cubs because Kyle Tucker re-signing aside, you're in really good hands with a couple of good core young pieces that are going to hit and continue to get better and under team control for a long time. And you mix those guys in with your Nico Horners and your Dansby Swansons of the world and your Ian Happs and all of a sudden you have a really good baseball team for the foreseeable future, not just this year and maybe next year, right? It's not a fluke contention window. Like these are guys that should help you be good for years to come. And I think that is, man, just incredibly, incredibly exciting.
But still re-sign Kyle Tucker.
Yes, absolutely. I hope and pray that they re-sign Kyle Tucker because I think we need to see that just for our own sake.
It's gonna be tough if he walks and they trade Owen Casey.
It's something I've been hammering for a long, long time of should they trade Casey? Like if they keep Casey, does that effectively mean that they're just letting Kyle Tucker leave Like that's what that kind of feels like at that moment if we get to the deadline. But that's neither here nor there. Gentlemen, we'll pivot and we'll keep looking at some other funsies. What's your biggest disappointment of the season? Rich, I'll let you go ahead and lead this one off. Biggest disappointment of the first half from the Cubs.
I think I'm going to go with Ben Brown. I had some very high expectations for Ben Brown, especially like all we heard in the offseason is that he's not hurt anymore. He's ramping up. He's going to, be in the rotation or in the bullpen, whatever, and he's going to contribute. And he just hasn't been able to prove that he can be a consistent starting pitcher, let alone a relief pitcher. Like he just gets lit up a lot of the time. Stinks because we've seen flashes. There's glimpses of greatness, right? Like he's had a few starts where you go like 6-7 innings with no earned runs, but then there's too many where he's giving up like 5+. He's got a lot of strikeout potential. I think it's still there. Like there's potential there, but he just needs to figure out whether it's a third pitch or something else. Like something's not working. He's leaving too many knuckle curveballs hanging right over the heart of the plate. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Ben Brown.
Sorry, had to get to the mute button. Didn't want to just start babbling off of on mute because I've been on that side. I think Ben Brown is a great answer. Genuinely, I do. Nick, your biggest disappointment?
Yeah, no, I also think Ben Brown's a great answer. The other guy that I was thinking of, and it's painful to say, but it's got to be Matt Shaw. He's struggled. He went down, looked like he might have figured some things out, but he's once again cold. And we were talking about that it would be really nice if third base wasn't a question at the trade deadline, but it's now become kind of more than a question. It's a hole at this point offensively for sure. I mean, the glove's there. He's really got a great glove at third base. That's why it's even more disappointing for me, at least, that he can't at least be serviceable with the bat, but he's just not. I don't know what it is. I don't know what he needs to figure out. It's weird because he goes down to AAA and he mashes, but then he comes up and against Major League pitching, it might be a timing issue. I don't know what it is, but he's just not there. So that would be my biggest disappointment this year. I think Jed and everyone had higher expectations for Shaw taking over that third base position. You got guys like Turner, Birdie, and Bruhan that are all combine them, and they're still under what Shaw would be, but it's still not enough out of Shaw.
I did it again, but I like Matt Shaw. That's a good answer. Juice.
I'm going to go with Jameson Taillon. If you look at Jameson Taillon, 7-6 on the year, a 4.44 ERA. And as they say, the best ability is availability. And if you look at this ball club, the way that they've had starting pitching, injuries this year, you looked at Jameson Taillon and you're like, all right, you're coming off of a good 2024, one that you could build some momentum into. He made 28 starts last year and had 165 innings pitched, which anything over like 160, 150 range is like pitching 200 like years ago. Because it's just the league now. And you're like, all right, like, let's go. And he hasn't even been worth a win. He hasn't been a negative. He hasn't been a positive. He's just been there. And with the state of this rotation, you just look at it, you're like, man, like, we need you to eat innings. Like, even if you're not pitching at an all-star level or a top of the rotation guy, you knew Jameson Taillon could go in and gut like 6 innings out for you. And they miss that so much right now. And it's really made them jump the gun into the trade market and trade earlier. Because if you had Jameson Taillon right now, you would be able to maybe gut it at least until the deadline. But now they've kind of aggressively began their search because you need starters now with the way Ben Brown has struggled and with the way that Jameson Taillon's out and Shota coming back. You didn't want to just throw Shota in for 7 innings right when he gets back. You wanted to ease him into that. Now, yeah, he's doing that, but you can't have like day after day after day of 5 innings, 4 innings from your starters. We've seen this song and dance before. It ends poorly. The bullpen gets taxed, and then you limp into September and you're in a dogfight, and everything from earlier on in the year comes back to bite you. And I just look at JMO, and I had high expectations. There were some things that he really worked on last year and cemented. He was brilliant for a lot of the year last year, and he just hasn't been available. I'm hoping that get healthy and have a strong end of the year. But yeah, Jameson Taillon has been kind of disappointing for me. And I too, I picked him to win the most games as a Cub. I think I picked him to have the most strikeouts just based on availability because of what we saw last year. And that just hasn't been the case for him. And, I'm hoping he gets back to that normal, 2.3 wins above replacement. You're talking about a guy who did that last year and then another time with the Yankees in 2021. So show some value, eat some innings, because every inning you eat now is like gold come the playoffs. It makes everybody fresher, and who knows what his role will be, but he's going to have to contribute somehow down the second half to eat innings, and I hope he can do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the home run numbers too, right? Like that's the big glaring thing I think with Taillon.
Yeah,
that
and it's like he doesn't walk
well.
anybody. He's so frustrating to me too. It's like he beats the strike zone all the time, which is fine. I love pitchers who throw strikes, but waste a couple pitches, man. Go out of the zone more often. And you have all these hitters set up, and knowing that you're beating the strike zone, set them up. He's so frustrating to me. And I think the Cubs too thought that they could tweak some of his pitch arsenal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if, and I don't want to speculate that I know anything I don't, but if anybody's in his ear, I'm curious if he's following any of it. Because there's certain times where you're 0-2. Why are you weighing a cookie in here? Let's waste some, move the eye line, and then come back. But it's frustrating. He frustrates me.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that sentiment, Juice. I think a lot of people are frustrated by him. Quickly running through for some of the other guys. For Tyler, his biggest disappointment is Ian Happ. I think that's completely fair. I think there's a lot that's tied to that with injury as well, which it's still disappointing. I mean, that still fits the criteria here. But that is Tyler's biggest disappointment. Bobby's is kind of fun, and it's a little off the wall. His is Porter Hodge. Just not great. He's been hurt a lot. This was a guy coming into the season that people were pegging as the closer out the jump, especially before they got Presley. And even after they got Presley, people still felt like he was at worst case scenario, your 8th inning guy. We've barely seen him. He's back on the shelf again. He's got a 5-something ERA. Kind of a rough season from Porter Hodge. So that is Bobby's biggest disappointment. And then for Joey, and ironically, his biggest disappointment is echoed in the comment section. So I'll go ahead and share those as well. His is Justin Steele being injured. He says he's disappointed with Steele. It's just the biggest disappointment that the Cubs have had to face is just Justin Steele not being out there. And he also says that his preseason prediction, Nate Pearson has really disappointed him. He says, but it's whatever. But he said, really, it's the Justin Steele, just not pitching is disappointing. And Darren echoes that, as does Scott. Darren says, entirely no fault to his own. Steele's injury, huge disappointment. Not just his talent, but his team presence is so missed. Completely agree. Nick, you wrote a great article on his birthday, a kind of a note of a happy birthday wish to him, but just expressing how much he's missed in the rotation every 5th day. I completely agree with it. It was a great read. If you haven't read it yet, go check it out over on tapsportsnet.com. Scott echoes that. He says, biggest disappointment is the Steele injury. His presence every 5th day would have the Cubs up 7 more games. I don't disagree. I think we saw what Justin Steele is, the bulldog that he is in that rotation. Not having him around is a genuine disappointment. Gentlemen, I struggled with this one a little bit because I sat here and I looked in the mirror and I was like, the Cubs are in first place. They're like one of the best records in the league. I'm like, what do I have to be disappointed about? And like, what did I have like high hopes for early in the season that just hasn't panned out yet? And I figured it out. And I figured it out. And again, it's very much along the lines of Justin Steele. And some of this was I didn't want to repeat with the Justin Steele stuff because I very much echo that sentiment of I miss watching number 35 pitch every fifth day. My biggest disappointment so far is the fact that Javier Assad hasn't pitched this season. Like, that is a guy. Darren asked it a little bit earlier. Is Assad going to pitch again this decade? I don't know.
He started
Javier's, which is great.
He started playing catch, which
he is the type of player on this Cubs team, especially this iteration of the Cubs, where they're humming. You got a bunch of guys resurrecting careers, like you mentioned earlier, Rich. Guys that are stepping up out of places we didn't expect. You get a Javier Assad back late in the season who can go multiple innings out of the bullpen or start. That's Weapon X. That's a trade deadline acquisition. This was a guy that's got like a career like 3.60 ERA as a starting pitcher. He's quietly good. He's a little frustrating at times when he gets guys on base because he'll walk some guys. But overall, he is the Houdini of this Cubs roster and organization. It has been for years. There's no person that's better than getting out of his own trouble than Javier Assad is. And it's been fun to watch. And he would be there would be no Cade Horton experiment this year. Not that I haven't enjoyed watching Cade Horton pitch. I'm not saying that. But there wouldn't have been a Ben Brown experiment this year if Javier Assad was healthy. We have yet even to see Javier Assad in 2025. And I think that's disappointing because I like watching Javier Assad pitch. Seeing number 72, which is a hilarious number in baseball, on the mound every fifth day or out of the bullpen or whatever is awesome because he's such a Swiss Army knife. And not having that guy available right now fucking sucks. Who knows, right? Like, who knows if he comes back? If he does come back this season, that's a huge gain for the Cubs that they didn't expect to have, that they would magically have. So for me, it's a little disappointing not seeing Javier Assad. And again, no fault to his own, very similar to the Justin Steele argument. He's hurt. Like, what are you going to do about it? But man, could you imagine if they had a healthy Steele and a healthy Assad on top of everything else that's gone right? Who knows where they're sitting?
Yeah, it is kind of incredible that they've been able to stay in first place and, win as much as they have with all these starting rotation injuries. It's incredible. And I think a lot of it has to do with the bullpen and the defense and the offense. It's just like everything else has kind of kept them afloat and, more than that. But yeah, definitely need starting pitching help, bro. The Brewers are right behind us. I fucking hate the Brewers, man.
Such a pesky team. Like,
just a heads up on Assad too. Just looked this up via CBS Sports. Assad completed bullpen sessions already. He's looking to throw live BP.
That's
so
big.
You'll see live at bats, which
Hopefully.
at that point, then you start to see a minor league stint that's probably going to be pretty lengthy. I would imagine after an oblique. But
I'd say mid-August sometime.
If
is
we're
the
lucky.
Best case scenario.
Yeah.
So you could potentially have Assad and Tyone coming back around the same time.
Yeah, Hank says Assad is going to throw BP tomorrow. Is the report? So who knows?
Assad's going to be in the All-Star game.
That would be electric.
Also,
his BP is just throwing an All-Star inning.
What pictures does Riley Martin have the SB the ESPN client list or whatever the fuck it is?
The Epstein client list.
Because he's been electric at AAA and doesn't even get a shot.
No, I know, which is infuriating because Riley Martin's a fun story.
He's so
Riley Martin is a local guy. He's from the boonies of Illinois. Fun fact, actually, a friend of mine actually grew up with Riley Martin.
Yeah, and I know.
So,
we've talked about this.
Yeah, he went to Quincy. He's a local. He's an Illinois kid.
Good old
D2 product.
He's got the client list.
And he's been balling. Yeah, he's been balling this year.
Dude.
I agree with you. He's got to be something's got to be against.
I think he gets a shot, roster expansion.
That's
a name that would be interesting.
That would be
nobody's seen him, and he's got a left. He's left. He's got a weird windup too.
And he's a lefty. I think just the fact that he's a lefty in general would be a huge piece to all of that
shot,
as well.
Man. And not because I said he was going to contribute.
Just give him a shot. Just give him a shot. Great stuff all around. Gentlemen, I want to know your team MVP of the first half. That's our next selection. Nick, I miss your voice, so you're going to go ahead and lead this one off. What do you got for us?
It's got to be PCA. I got to stick by my guy. I knew he was going to be a premier player. I predicted he was going to be a premier player in this league. And he's just been nothing short of spectacular. He's definitely my team MVP.
Hell yeah. That's a good one. Rich?
Yeah. I think I'm going to go with Kyle Tucker. I think it's kind of insane how well everybody else is doing around Tucker, and like I don't know if Seiya Suzuki is having the season that he's having without Tucker in the lineup. I think the fact that he elevates everybody else just like ascends him to the top to me, and he had some incredible moments in the first half, like that home run against the Diamondbacks at home when they capped off that comeback. I mean, he's just, in addition to having like an incredible at bat every time, like he's just such a tough out. He comes in clutch a lot, and I think he just elevates everybody else. I don't know. He's like the X factor for the lineup to me. So I'm gonna go Kyle Tucker.
I love that. I love that a lot. Juice?
I have two. Michael Busch, because I mean, lefty power at first base. I mean, look at World Series winners; they always seem to have it. Or just power at first base. You're talking about a premier power hitter, a guy who is, 925 OPS. Like, that's incredible. And then Daniel Palencia. Like, does the bullpen slide into their roles comfortably without Daniel Palencia? Like, I mean, if you look at like when the Cubs bullpen started ascending, it coincides perfectly when he took over the closing job, because then all those other names slide into their foreseen role. And if he doesn't lock it down like he has been, what are the Cubs doing? Because Presley wasn't working. What's the next name? We all talk about Ben Brown, but yeah, that wasn't going to work. That's not going to work there either. So the Cubs don't have a replacement for that currently. Like, if you look up and down, like, there's nobody who could do that. Throw 101 and then play with a splitter in the middle of a game against Minnesota. Like, that's, and then you see his slider too. Like, he's nasty. You're looking at maybe one of the most uncomfortable at bats in the league, because you're tuned up for 102, and then he throws that splitter, and I don't think I've seen the Cubs have a guy like this come out of the bullpen for a really long time, that no matter what the situation is, I know he's just going to pump 102. And if somebody hits it out or somebody does damage with it, hey, tip your cap and walk off the field, because there's not a lot of players out there that are going to turn 102 around on you for extra bases. I'll tell you that. So I don't know where this team is in the bullpen or just in general. I mean, we may be talking about way more blown saves and way more problems and way less like optimism of buying if you're talking about a team that's blown the amount of saves that they blew last year because they had this same problem. So in a way too, like, Jed Hoyer's gotten lucky. You're talking, we knew this issue was an issue last year. He tried to address it with Presley, and his internal coaching staff, which tip the cap, has made Daniel Palencia that gross. So kudos to you, but Palencia, man, he's my opening or my midseason MVP for this, because I don't know where this bullpen is without it.
Hell yeah. I like that answer. I like that answer a lot. Here's the fun thing. Nick, I think you were on the show with me when we talked about this, because we were talking about trade deadlines, and we revisited the 2021 trade deadline and the whole sell-off of that old core and all the other guys that were there and what yielded the best returns. Obviously, the Javier Baez trade got you Pete Crow Armstrong, which was huge, and that's the one that everybody focuses on. But the Chris Bryant trade, Canario's not in the organization anymore. Killian's on a minor league contract now because he got DFA'd. The Rizzo deal, Vizcaino never reported effectively, just left baseball. And Alcantara might be a trade piece. So that one's kind of maybe TBD based on what you get in return for Kevin Alcantara. The second best deal behind Pete Crow Armstrong was Andrew Chafin going to the freaking Oakland Athletics for Greg Diekman. Remember him?
Oh,
And the waiver and flyer was Daniel Palencia. And that's how they've gotten to where they are. Daniel Palencia, Andrew Chafin. Remember how everybody's been pining for the Cubs to bring back Andrew Chafin? Just thank Andrew Chafin because he got you Daniel Palencia, who's pumping 102 in the bullpen. So great stuff, Juice. I love that answer a whole lot.
You forgot the Craig Kimbrell trade, where we
You
got
mean-
Nick Madrigal and Cody Hoyer.
Hey, Cody Hoyer was good until he got hurt, which sucked because I liked Cody Hoyer.
He
Still
had
in baseball,
potential.
Cody Hoyer?
That's a good question.
I don't
have
think
no
he
idea.
is. I genuinely don't think he is.
Yes,
Nick
If he is, he's on a
Madrigal-
minor league deal.
Is Nick
He is
Madrigal still
in-
in baseball?
Nick Madrigal is. He's hurt. He got hurt for the year. He's with the Mets.
Cody Hoyer is in the Texas Rangers system.
Wild. Baseball's a weird sport, man. Because bullpens are weird, Juice. Bullpens are weird.
Print the shirt. Actually,
Print
he pitched in one game for the Rangers this year.
I wish I would have watched that game.
He got
I would have had so
shelled.
much.
6.75 ERA.
Never mind.
Gave up. I didn't get shelled. He gave up 1 run.
Yeah, it still sucks though.
Oh, and a homer. So now I go down the rabbit hole, as Ron knows. Who did he hit the homer on, or who hit the homer on him? So I will find that
Off of
data
Hoyer?
at the end of. Yeah. No,
What
I'm going to
team?
find that data.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're gonna go down that
Because
rabbit
you
hole.
know the way that my brain works.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
He's actually
What about
pitched
you?
good at AAA this year. 3.28 ERA, 35 innings,
It's not bad.
49
Decent.
strikeouts too.
Bring him back.
I'm
That's
here
going to
for
be
it.
the big trade deadline acquisition.
Cody
is
Hoyer
Cody
from the
Hoyer.
Texas Rangers.
Yeah,
I'm here for it. I love it.
we'll trade Reese
MVPs.
McGuire for him.
Speaking of Reese McGuire, I think we need to comment up here that we need to give some light to here for half a second. Darren says, how do we keep Wet Ones McGuire around after Amaya gets back? He's been great and is a hell of an insurance policy if future injuries arrive. I kind of agree with that. Do you carry 3 catchers? Like, I don't know. It's going to be something interesting to keep an eye on. Scott also says Palencia versus Willie is his favorite moment from the first half. So, but speaking of MVPs here, PCA is the choice for Mr. Tyler Edmonds. Bobby's choice is Kyle Tucker. I think for a lot of the same reasons you said, Rich. Nick, for a lot of the reasons you said for Tyler's choice. I like Joey's choice, and I'm going to piggyback off of Joey's choice because I am in the same camp as Joey. Joey writes it pretty poetically, and I will just continue off of what he had to say. He says, legit league MVP candidates, PCA, Tucker, Bush, and Saya. But our team MVP has to be Matthew Boyd. This team would be absolutely lost without him, and I completely fucking agree. Matthew Boyd has been unbelievable. Like if you would have told me back in February that Justin Steele was going to be done for the year before April ended, and Shota Imanaga was going to miss more than a month, and this Cubs team was going to be in first place, pardon me, I would have told you you were off your rocker, and I would have asked you for whatever you were smoking. But all of a sudden, Jameson Taillon had a couple of really good starts. You had Cade Horton step up the way he did. You've had the other guys, Colin Ray, step up the way he has at times. Obviously, he's had some rough starts, but overall has done great stuff. But Matthew fucking Boyd makes Jed Hoyer, once again, masterclass Jed Hoyer, look like a genius because he's carrying a 2.34 ERA and an all-star nod into the all-star break. And that's how freaking good he's been. And I agree. Like, what do you do? If you don't have that beacon of consistency every 5th day with your 2 big workhorses down, where is this Cubs team? I don't know. We'll never know. But it's a fair question to ask. And I genuinely ride heavy with Joey's choice here of Matthew Boyd is my team MVP. He's been so good. And don't get me wrong. I don't undervalue or undersell what P. Crow Armstrong or Kyle Tucker or Seiya Suzuki or Michael Bush or really any of those guys have done. But when you look at the situation and you say, where was the most value of a player based on the circumstances? it's really hard to look past Matthew Boyd, and that's why he's also my choice as well. Because it's a really good one. A couple of quick comments here. Hank says, "Would love to have a beer with Andrew Chafin. He reminds me of the late great Rod Beck." Yeah, that's a hell of an answer there. And then Darren says, "Isn't it fun debating who are MVP, etc., instead of the main topic being hashtag we got holes?" I thought about that earlier when I think Nick, you said we have holes. Juice, I don't know if you saw my face just like try to not break into laughter because I think about the we got holes with Darren in the comments. That's always a fun one.
Real quick too, just to follow up because I can't wait to tell you. Cody Hoyer gave up to the runner-up of the home run derby this year, Junior Caminero.
Yeah,
Caminero. Sorry.
All right, we'll let that one slide, Cody Hoyer.
So, yeah, Junior Caminero is nasty. That kid is unbelievable.
That's
Speaking
the only
of the Rays,
home run he gave.
Speaking of, we were talking about the Twins potentially being sold earlier. The Rays are being sold.
Good for them.
And kept in Tampa. They're going to actually Tampa, which I'll tell you right now, as somebody who has been to the Trop, and I have family in the Tampa area, getting to St. Petersburg from Tampa Bay, or really not so much from Tampa, but from the rest of that area in Florida, Orlando and Port Richey and all of those towns that kind of line the coast there, it's a fucking nightmare. And that's why the Rays don't get attendance. Not because people don't like the Rays. They're really well liked in Florida. It's just because it's impossible to get to that ballpark unless you live close to it.
And that place sucks. Like St. Petersburg sucks.
There's just nothing there anymore. There's just nothing there anymore.
It's kind of
so.
Ghetto,
I wouldn't
Last
call
time
it ghetto.
I went,
it's more or less abandoned, is what it really feels like. There's just nothing there anymore. It's very much just hotels, and you go there for the beaches, and that's what a lot of people do. So I'm genuinely excited as the closet Rays fan that I am, as my AL team. Very excited because that team needs to be in Tampa. They're going to do great in Tampa, and it's going to be good for their future. So not to get too far off topic, but the Junior Caminero name took me down that path. Gentlemen, we'll continue with Cy Young. I'll start because Joey and I have the same answer with Matthew Boyd for all the reasons that I just said. So we'll knock that one really quick out of the way. Tyler also agrees. He has Matthew Boyd as his Cy Young. I will hold off on Bobby's till the end, though, because I want to see if anybody else agrees with Bobby's. He has a different answer here. But for sake of switching up a little bit here, Juice, I'll ask you who your team Cy Young winner is.
I'm not going to argue it. It's just Matthew Boyd.
Okay.
For all the things that we've flowered him over this course of this show.
And flowered accordingly. Rich?
Same. I think I'll just cap it off with my favorite stat of Matthew Boyd this year. 19 starts, 13 of them have been quality starts. That's
hot.
That's pitching like an ace. That's awesome.
That's hot. That'll play. Nick?
Matthew Boyd.
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah.
I have a different answer from Bobby Foster. So Matthew Boyd was the consensus, except for from Bobby Foster. And I'll tell you what, Juice, you will appreciate this one. His team Cy Young, Daniel Palencia.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. That would be the only guy that you can maybe try to cut an argument around.
I think you cut the argument though for Bobby's choice here for Cy Young.
Like under the radar, like showing value, but like Colin Ray. I'm not gonna say like
he's been good,
Cy
man.
Young, but where are they with that? I mean, he's started. Did you think he was going to start 15 games for us this year? No, and in all of those, he's been worth half a win, and I mean wins. Like he's 7. I know pitcher wins aren't really a stat, but I mean he's 7-3. That's
I can only really think of like 2 or 3 games where he's been really bad. Yeah. Every other game, he's at least given them a chance to win. And honestly, out of a guy that you didn't even expect to be in your rotation, that's all you can ask for.
Pitcher like win above replacement's crazy though. Like, guess the third best pitcher win above replacement on the Cubs right now.
Who's the top? Is it Matthew Boyd?
That's Matthew Boyd, then Shota Imanaga. Who's third?
Can I get numbers for Boyd and Imanaga?
2.6 for Boyd, 1.8 for Shota.
I'm going to guess Chris Flexen.
Isn't that odd? Like, yes, Chris Flexen.
I was going to guess Flexen too.
And then Drew Pomerantz is worth a whole win.
I believe that.
But
the dude just gave up his first run. Like Darren said here, only earned runs Pomerantz allowed this year is in the dugout when they crossed home plate.
Yeah, but like, just odd. Like, I mean, I love wins above replacement. I don't usually tie it to pitchers as much, even though I did, talk about Jameson Taillon. It just kind of shows some value. But like Chris Flexen, but I mean, he's got a 1.47 and he's pitched almost 40 innings. So
he's been nasty.
It shows like that's.
Yep. He's been good. He's been good. Speaking of pitchers, Scott with a fun stat here from the comment section. Matthew Boyd is the oldest player, and he corrects it, in history of Major League Baseball to be named an All-Star for the first time. At 34, I believe Matthew Boyd is.
Dude, that makes me feel old because I'm a month older than him.
That's wild.
Baseball has passed me.
Brother, I think we're all at that point in life where like we feel like a lot of things have passed us, and I'm right
dudes getting drafted who were born in 2007.
Gross. I was hitting puberty in 2007.
2 years later, I was a sophomore in high school.
I was like fully past puberty by 2007. So yeah, that's fully
sorry
believable.
For anybody listening to the show that's older than me, because you probably feel even worse than I do.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. We'll survive.
Just have a little bourbon.
We'll survive. Yeah, I'm way ahead of you there, Rich. Way ahead of you, my friend. One more question for all of you guys here before my surprise question at the very end, and that is, what are you most excited for in the second half? And now I know this one's going to be kind of fun because it's going to be all over the place, and that's why I wanted to kind of end this one as the final question that I asked. Nick, I'm going to toss it back over to you again to get this thing started. What are you most excited for in the second half?
I'm excited for the battle they're going to have with the Brewers for the top spot. I think it's going to get pretty rough and ugly, but I think it's going to be really fun to watch and follow along with. Some competitive baseball is all you can ask for. I'm excited to see what they do. I did see a stat that they have pretty much one of the easiest schedules from here on out. So they should use that. They should have leverage on them, but it's the Brewers, it's the Cubs. You never know what's going to happen. So I'm actually looking forward to the battle for the division.
Hell yeah, man. I think that's a great answer. Rich, what are you looking forward to most?
In addition to that, and hopefully them making the playoffs, I'm kind of interested to see where everybody's offensive stats end up at the end of the year, because right now there are 5 players on paper theoretically on pace to hit more than 30 home runs for the Cubs this year. Even during like the World Series core years, I don't think they ever had 5 players hit 30, let alone 25. Maybe they didn't even have 5 players do that in a single season.
Yeah,
you're talking 5 hitting 30, and PCA and Suzuki are on pace to hit 40 plus. Like we're looking at some bonkers offensive years. Suzuki has almost 80 RBIs already. Like, I don't know. Just this is going to be one of those years where you just look back for like decades to come. Like that was an incredible offensive season. Hopefully, knock on wood, that's what happens.
Oh yeah, Juice.
I'm excited for fans of the Cubs to actually wrap their mind around the fact that this is getting special. I mean, just to look, I'm a huge stat guy. Love Vegas, and Vegas is pretty damn close to being right a lot of times on a lot of things. Playoff odds. The Cubs are a 98.9 chance to make the playoffs. They're a 16-1 chance to win the World Series, a 28-7 chance to win the pennant. They have the highest World Series odds to win the whole thing in the whole league at 16-1.
Love that.
Following that is Detroit at 13-8. And we've talked about the course of the show. Cubs are getting healthy. They're going to add more talent. I mean, this isn't the finished product. I think fans need to embrace this roller coaster and just be ready for a deep run. Because I look at this team, and if they're going to continue to hit like this, they're going to find some help at the deadline pitching wise. And if this bullpen, that's been the best in baseball since they've made that move in May to Palencia, continues to do that, with the way that the postseason is structured, this Cubs team fits playing in the playoffs. You don't need a huge amount of starters. You need a good bullpen, a team that's going to take extra bases, a team that's going to play defense. The Cubs do all of that, and they have guys in their lineup 1 through 9 most of the time, pending, Matt Shaw, or maybe they make a move for a third baseman that can beat you. Every position has a chance to beat you on this team. So a 16-1 chance to win the World Series. I don't think Chicago has wrapped their mind around it yet, that this is how serious this Cubs team is. I mean, you're talking about a manager that is going to be an NL Manager of the Year candidate. You're talking about 2 guys who may be in the running for MVP, and a team that has prospect depth to deal from to add whatever they feel is going to help them win. You don't go into a trade deadline like this and look at these win percentages to win the World Series and these odds to make the playoffs and just sit on your hands. Jed Hoyer is going to be extremely aggressive, and he's in a 1-year deal. That's the other thing. He's fighting for his job, and there's nothing more enticing or motivating than a guy who's fighting for his job. If he wants to stay here, and I think he's going to. I think he's going to get an extension. But that little carrot that's being dangled out there of, hey, get us into the World Series or get us into the playoffs and make a long run. That's motivating. And I think a lot of these guys, too, that are on this team, it's a mix of guys who have done it before and a mix of guys who are too stupid to know the big moment that's coming that could be here come October. 16.1, that's the number. And that's what I'm excited for, because I feel like that number could be in the 20s in a month from now.
I don't know how I follow that up.
Yeah,
and I got 4 thought processes to share after.
That was epic.
That was epic, but it's true. I mean, it encapsulates what is on the horizon for this Cubs team, and I think we're gonna articulate that in a couple different ways here, with my thoughts and with the thoughts of our other guys as well. I'll start with Joey's. His first thing here for the second half, he says the deadline deals in the stretch one. He says there's nothing better than playoff baseball. Let's get there. Bobby kind of echoes that similarly. He says he is looking forward to a wild trade deadline. I think that echoes a lot of what we've said on the show here tonight. Tyler's is always fun because it's a rambling of Tyler's thoughts, and I think we can all hear this in Tyler's accent as I read this. He says what he's most excited for. He says, I want to see if Michael Busch can hold his numbers up. What does a returning Javier Assad look like? Can Danny P continue to be the guy out of the pen? Will Ian Happ turn it around? Parenthesis, people forget he has only 1 more year left on his current deal. Can Seiya nudge his name into a top 5 MVP finish? And in all caps, are we adding another arm or not? That's what Tyler is excited for here in the second half. I'll tell you what, this is what I'm excited for here in the second half. I'm excited for a wild deadline. This team's going to look a lot different by the end of July, going into August. You know what I'm looking forward to most? I'm looking forward to most feeling something in the month of September for Cubs baseball, because it's been a while. I know 2023, they got close, right? Like as of September 8th or whatever, they were in a great spot, and then they blew it down the stretch. You can make the same argument about last year, right? They just came up short. And you look at years before that, 2020 didn't feel the same. 2021, they blew it up. 2019, they pissed it away down the stretch. 2018 was probably the last time this team that we felt something when this team played baseball in September. Like, personally, for me, a really weird September coming up for me. I'm going to be coaching football this year. I'm super stoked about that. But I am equally as stoked to follow along with this Cubs team in September. Like, I want to be stressed out about having to be able to jump on the mic with you guys to talk Cubs on Tap after coaching for half of my day. I want that pressure. And I think the Cubs do too. And I think the fan base does want that too. We all want that. We want meaningful September baseball. We want to be staring at the standings at the start of every day going, what the fuck can happen today to make the standings look different at the end of it? You know, we want that moment of uncertainty when your team's down 3 runs in a game with the Brewers on their fucking heels, right? You want the excitement of it. That's what makes this part of the year fun. That's what makes you realize that, you know, freezing your ass off in April at Wrigley was worth it because you're going to go and sweat your balls off in September there instead. And then when it's all said and done, we're going to sit here in the greatest month of sports that exists on the calendar. And you can't convince me otherwise because the Cubs will be playing baseball in the month of October. And that is what I'm excited for. And you know what? I fucking hope they're playing baseball in November too, because the last time they played baseball in November, they were World Series champions. And that's where my head's at when it's all said and done. That includes the trade deadline. That includes the offensive numbers, as you said, Rich. That includes everything. Because again, I'll tell you what, if I've learned anything from doing Cubs on Tap with you guys over the last, 6 years now, I've learned to appreciate baseball more than I ever did before. And to ride that roller coaster, Juice, like you said. And this is a part of that roller coaster. And we get to have the excitement of riding the ups and downs of meaningful baseball all the way to the very end, which is something that we haven't had in a long time. And I'll tell you what, I think about the last 2 years where it felt like they were so close, yet no cigar. And they kind of just pissed it away by the middle of September. And then we were fully into Bears season. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited for football. I love football. Football is my favorite sport. But son of a bitch, if you don't think I'm ready for meaningful baseball late in the season, I can't wait. And that's what I'm excited for here in the second half. Scott says it's September 8th. If you only have one TV, what are you watching? The Cubs clinching the division or the Bears on opening weekend on Monday Night Football? Scott, if I have one TV, I also have a cell phone. I'll figure it out. I'll have both of them.
Loophole. Scott.
Loophole. We will make it work. But I feel Scott. I mean, it really is leaning because of how special this team is that you could argue it's the Cubs. You really could, especially when you invest the amount of time that you have in the baseball season, right? Like, you're like, I can't just fucking give that up. They play the Vikings on Monday Night Football. Who the fuck cares?
I can watch the highlights of the Bears game later.
100%. Shit,
if there are any.
Low key, I might be at that Bears game, so I might have the Cubs on my cell phone.
Also, just so Scott knows, they play at 6:15 that night. The Bears won't start till 7:15. You could watch both technically. Hopefully, the Cubs just get up like 10-0 in that game, and then you could just coast and watch football.
Scott says he was looking forward to the Cubs being the biggest thing in Chicago, even when the NFL season starts. I'm for that. I'm right there with that as well.
I thought Scott said he was going to watch, just Patrick Wisdom highlights on that day instead.
He might. Hey, he might. Gentlemen,
ABO's Barry Bonds.
The last question I have for you guys: who is the one player? Just pick one that you want the Cubs to come away with at the trade deadline, that you are convicted that they are going to target at the trade deadline and get. Who is that one player for you that when we sit here in less than a month, really like 2.5 weeks, that we're sitting here and talking about like, wow, they went out and they got that guy and he's a Cub and this guy's going to try and help this team win a World Series in 2025. Who is that name for each of you? Nick, the floor is yours to start it off. Who is it?
Cubs killer turned into Wrigley Dream, Eugenio Suarez. I know it may be tough. Juice gave some reasons on why it may be tough. But, man, if you get that bat in that lineup and if you replace Shaw and you have Eugenio Suarez batting around guys like Suzuki, Tucker, PCA, lifting up guys like Swanson, it could look totally different in the second half. You could be doubling down on the offense, and you could be even more of an offensive threat than what you were in the first half, which is scary to think about. So that's
scary.
That's
scary indeed. The silver lining of your pick, Nick, Every time I turn on the radio, I get to hear Pat Hughes say Eugenio Suarez because
Yeah,
that's
there
like
you
one
go.
of my
Yep.
favorite things in all of baseball. Juice, who's your guy that you're most excited about?
Either Joe Ryan or Seth Lugo.
Okay.
One of those. If you get one more starter on this team, and you can go Shota, insert new starter, Matthew Boyd in a series, you're going to be okay. And if the bullpen's is still that same way, I do want them to add to the bullpen. I have three, one starter, one bullpen arm, and a third baseman. And I think third for me, I don't want to say it's a distant third, but I think you could still win a pennant with good defense from third base and limited offensive output with this lineup. If I'm Jed Hoyer, I'm not blowing my load on a third baseman, and I'm making that like my last thing I do. Like, I'm going to get a starter, I'm going to get a bullpen arm, and then I'll go back to these guys and say, hey, this is what I have to trade that's left. And maybe you add like another third baseman that ends up pushing Shaw to more of a bench role, and that's okay because Bruhan and Birdie are, to me, and Turner, it's a limited bench to me too. It's another thing. Like, they should find a way to bolster that, and if they can get another, name to play third, then Shaw can do that. But yeah, they got to find a way to get a top of the line starter because as of right now, you'd be going in with Boyd, Imanaga, and who? Jameson Taillon if he's healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna need a third guy. You don't need a third guy as much as you need. You need a third guy way more than you need anything else.
Yeah.
And I think that there's internal solutions for even the bullpen if you wanted to look that way too, if the market doesn't, play out the way you thought it is. But I mean, yeah, go out there and spend your chips because, like I said earlier, 16-7 chance to win the World Series? No use of holding it back, Jed. What's the worst that happens? You get bounced and you're finding a new job? I don't think that's the case. I think you trade whatever you can, try to win another one. Try to win one without Theo Epstein. Make a name for yourself. That's something that I think is pretty motivating to him.
Hell yeah. I like that. Rob is right in the same comment here as yours. Rob German says, the Cubs get anyone that isn't a starting pitcher, it better not prevent them from getting a starting pitcher. I think that's where the mindset is. Rich, what is yours?
Yeah, I think mine is either Joe Ryan or Pablo Lopez. I think either one of them checks so many boxes for the Cubs, like multiple years of team control, a right-handed pitcher that would complement the current makeup of the rotation perfectly. Neither of them throw particularly hard, but they generate a ton of strikeouts. That's just what you want. They Joe Ryan, it's kind of honest. It's honestly a little crazy that he's not an all-star. He has 121 strikeouts and 109 innings, 2.72 ERA. I mean, he's having a heck of a year. And even though Pablo Lopez is hurt right now, he's due back in the early August. I would take that chance too. As long as the medicals are good, I would take that chance because Pablo Lopez can pitch like an ace when he's at his best. Either one of those guys would be that third dude that you can use in a playoff series and be comfortable about it.
Would you, if you're the Cubs, this is just hypothetical, sell out and trade the farm for Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, and my go-to guy, like Scott said a little bit earlier,
all three of them?
I'm convinced that Duran is walking out for the Cubs
Man,
to win
what
the
does that
NLCS
cost?
and Wrigley.
Yeah, you're talking all three of those guys.
Why not?
So that's Casey.
The farm.
Rojas.
That's Casey.
That's Casey, Alcantara,
Wiggins.
Wiggins, and
Ballesteros.
probably.
I would say they would have to give him another pitcher.
Yes.
I don't know who though. Like
Birdsell?
Birdsell.
Send him. Fire him to the sun.
Ben Brown.
Yeah. Or like Jordan Wicks or Ben Brown, maybe.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
It would be fun.
I would do it.
Duran is mine. Duran is mine because I think I'm in agreement that like either Ryan or Lopez looks great. I think the Twins is the team that I hope the Cubs trade with. I think that's the ideal trade partner, Juice, like you said a little bit earlier. Overall, though, if you can get Duran and a starter, I mean, shit, if you get all three of them, that'd be hella fun. But
there's no way they're gonna do that. But I mean, I could see it honestly happening, like Ryan and Duran, or Lopez and Duran. Like, that is not. I don't want to say realistic, but I could see that happening. Like there is a deal to be done there. But all three of them, there's no fucking shot. Like you would have to be a bonehead to do.
It would be.
If you're in the Twins position, you would have to be a bonehead.
I think I would rather have Ryan over Lopez just because of age and control. But
they're both the same age, though.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're both 29, and I think they're both under team control.
I thought Joe Ryan was 25.
29.
Is he really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But they're both under team control for, I think, 2 additional years after this year.
Okay. So it really is just whoever fits the bill. If the shoe fits, it ships anywhere in the country for a low flat rate. I'm, but I'll tell you what, I think Duran would be such an addition to this team. You mentioned like having 2 flamethrowers at the end of the bullpen between him and Palencia.
Oh my god!
You can almost play them, especially once you get to the postseason. You can almost play them as like alternate closers at that point, right? And then the way the rest of the bullpen sets up, I mean, they've been fantastic. That's my guy. I think when it's all said and done, Scott says Lugo, Duran, and Bregman is the dream. I think that's a lot of fun. Rob says here, conspiracy theory: Bush moves to third, and the Cubs call up Jonathan Long to play first. That's a fun little conspiracy. He's been very, very good. He says, too bad he's too short to play first, but I mean, he's been good. Jonathan Long's had a really good minor league season. And then Darren says, great show, Rich, Nick, Juice, and Ron. Ron, the check is in the mail for the proof of life on Juice. Missed that guy. Yeah, he has. There's been a couple shows where Darren was like, is Juice alive? And I was like, I promise you Juice is alive. I have spoken to Juice personally. Juice is alive. He just hasn't been on the microphone so far. But, gentlemen, I mean, this has been incredible. The All-Star game is coming up tomorrow. Pete Armstrong.
Not on the 40-man, by the way.
Not on the 40-man. You're 100% correct. Kyle Tucker in the All-Star game. Matthew Boyd gets the nod. He's not going to pitch, which is totally fine. So we'll enjoy that tomorrow, I think, as Cubs fans, seeing those two play in Atlanta. In addition to that, we have the Boston series on the horizon. One of the hottest teams in baseball, coming into Wrigley on Friday, 1:20 Friday start at Wrigley. Saturday is a 6:15 game because they're always weird with the Boston series. They like having Saturday night baseball. Don't ask me why, but that's what they do. And then, of course, Sunday's another 1:20 game to close out the series. And the Kansas City Royals come to town starting on Monday. Gentlemen, I am going to flip it around to you guys because we have approached 2 hours as it always is on this show. But that's the beauty of the All-Star Break show. It's a lot of fun. We get to really dive in deep when it's all said and done. I want to give each of you the floor. Final thoughts. Before we go ahead and sign off here for at least a week when it's all said and done, and we'll reconvene almost a week from now on Sunday after that Boston series. Nick, the floor is yours to start it off, buddy. How you feeling?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling great. I couldn't be feeling better about this first half, and I'm really excited. We've talked about all the things that we're looking forward to, but I'm looking forward to just more baseball, honestly. Last year at this time, it was a totally different feeling, completely different vibe, and now we're flying high now, and it's a great feeling. It's a great team. I'm also just looking forward to what they're going to do at the deadline. Just hearing all these names go around, I'm so excited about it. So couldn't be happier with this team. And, I'm just looking forward to the rest of the year and seeing what comes of it.
Hell yeah. Juice?
Yeah, normally I take this time to talk about the Cubs, but I'm actually going to shift gears a little bit, talk a little bit about the All-Star game and tonight's coverage of the Home Run Derby. Extremely disappointed in ESPN, and I feel like they need to do a better job of covering it. I did watch a little bit before we were, on the mic here and tuned in as much as I could. But there's a place for Pat McAfee, and then there's a place not for Pat McAfee. And it shouldn't be introducing the players that step onto the podium because that was just a horrific watch. I love his energy. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and place, but man, was that just a painful watch. And 2, it's the worst camera angles in the history of the home run derby.
Yes.
To watch balls go out of the ballpark was unseen. It's one of those things that I don't know if this is the format and that's messed it up, but the fact that it's so quick that you can admire shots. Ron, we posted on the Cubs on Tap account, Sammy Sosa hitting one, all the way into the third deck at Miller at the time. And that's a moment. Like watching how far that ball flies was always the fun part of me for the Derby. And it's so quick with this time limit and with the 40 pitches that you see it for a second, you get a gist of where the ball's going to land, and then they're right back onto the pitcher, throwing it to the hitter. ESPN needs to clean it up because what made that great was the ability to watch how far the best athletes in the world at this sport can hit a baseball. There's nothing like it. It's nothing like my childhood ever was. And I'm really disappointed with the way that ESPN's covered it since they've had it. Fix the system and give us what we want. The camera angle that follows the baseball all the way to the end. I don't care if there's an alternate broadcast that would show it, but I don't need 60 camera angles panning to different angles all the time to then panning to little kids with their dads who are in the All-Star game, admiring the baseball. It's great. There's a time and place for it, but man, they got to clean it up because I think we're going to get the ratings back for this and it's not going to be very great. I think a lot of people tuned out once they saw the way that they were covering it because it was pretty frustrating to myself.
Yeah.
Go Cubs, by the way.
Love that. Well said. Rich, what do you got for us?
Back when we were talking about this being a special season, I was thinking back to like the last time I felt something in the playoffs, like for this Cubs team, and I think it was 2017. Like 2018, they lost in the wild card game to the freaking Rockies, which was like the most disappointing game ever. 2019 they missed the playoffs. 2020 was like I don't even remember how they lost because that whole season was just god awful.
Couldn't hit like the other times.
Missed the playoffs the last 4 years. Like it's been 7 years, and I remember where I was standing when Wade Davis struck out Bryce Harper to send the Cubs to their third straight NLCS. We have the chance to have another moment like that this year, and it's been 7 freaking years. Like this is a special Cubs season. Let's get hyped about it. All in front office, push the chips in. Like this is it. Like this is a good ass season, and we should enjoy it as much as we possibly can. Go Cubs, go make the playoffs. Fuck the Brewers.
Hell yeah. I love that. Scott has a quick thought. He says MLB counted a home run that was robbed by one of the shaggers, just like the Japan home run. MLB makes the rules as they go. It's tough. Scott doesn't want to let that one go from March. I don't blame him. It is what it is. And
Rich, you brought that up, man. Like going back to 2017, it's a very popular juice conspiracy theorist here. In 2017, the Cubs would have won back-to-back World Series if not for the rain. The rain gave them it in 2016. In 2017, they were about to.
The rain giveth and the rain taketh away.
In 2017, they were about to take out Washington, and they were able to bring back Scherzer because Game 4 got banged. And because it got banged, they had an extra day of rest. He came back, pitched, and then he pitched again, if you remember, in Game 5. But in Game 4, I think it would have been Jordan Zimmerman, if I'm not mistaken, and the Cubs had his number that year. So my thought is they would have been able to set their bullpen, and they would have been able to set their starting pitching going into that Dodger series. Because of that, they had to pitch John Lackey in Game 1, and they were catching up ever since Game 1 after that. Now, mind you, that totally changes history because in that moment, 2017 was also the cheating year for the Astros. So who's to say that one of the Cubs aren't ruined like Yu Darvish was? Man, I went down this rabbit hole in my head like hours thinking like the way baseball changes, if that rain day doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Maybe the Cubs win that, and the Cubs are actually the victims instead of the Dodgers in the cheating scandal.
Thank God the Dodgers were, because I don't think I could have handled the Cubs being on the other end of that when it's all said and done. 2025, the year, hashtag we go. We got
Yeah, we don't got holes. We got hope.
We got hope replaces we got holes. Go Cubs. I like that. I like that a lot. Rob asks, are they doing the ABS for the All-Star game tomorrow? I don't think they are. They did in the Futures game, though, because Owen Casey, like, they rung him up on a pitch, and he was like, not a goddamn chance. That's a walk, and he got the walk. So when it's all said and done. A couple of quick final thoughts from me. A couple of these from Joey. Joey really liked the Conrad pick. Dan Kantrovitz did a media session, said that he probably would have been a top 10 pick had he played the entire season and not gotten hurt. So that was a big one. Notably, they drafted Craig Counsell's son, Brady, and then Cole Franklin's brother, Cayman, which is kind of fun. A lot of Cubs ties there. Also, Noah Edders, is a local kid, Downers Grove South High School product. Pitched at Bradley before going to Troy, and he was picked in this draft as well. Hartshorn, which is the big kid that I told you guys about that won the MLB home run derby for high schoolers, big switch, power switching, hitting outfielder. Joey's a big fan of his. And then Coppola, who is the 6'8" lefty out of Florida, reminds me a little bit of Luke Little. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him from there. My final thought, gentlemen, this was fucking cool. I love this show. This is one of my favorite shows of the year, as always. Talking about the All-Star break, getting into it. We get all of us get a week off. We get to unplug from baseball for a little bit. We'll reconvene on Sunday, whoever is available for that show. But I love hearing from your guys' thoughts, the way the season's evolving. And because it's just past the halfway point, now it is truly kind of the stretch run. And that's what makes it so much fun when it's all said and done. So that's kind of my thoughts. Jay says here, they are using the ABS for the All-Star game, which will be a lot of fun. He also said FTC and FTR, I guess, for the Red Sox as well. Or FTB, if you want to say fuck Boston. Or the Brewers, which works in your favor, Rich, as you said a little bit earlier. But as always, fans, we are one of two Cubs shows here at the On Tap Sports Network. Our friends at the Dingers podcast were live before we were tonight here on the On Tap Sportsnet YouTube channel. Be sure to check them out at Dingers Cubs is where you can find them on the socials. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the bell button at the On Tap Sportsnet YouTube channel. You know when all of our great shows go live. Be sure to follow along with us. We are at Cubbies on Tap on the socials. You see all of our handles here, Loose on Tap, Juice on Tap, at Rich_Ebbs, and of course at Nick_on_tap. Be sure to follow all the other boys as well. If you listen on podcast, you can find all of the handles in the podcast description there. And of course, we've got more than just the Cubs. We've got Bears, Bulls, and Blackhawks, plenty to talk about with all those sports. And of course, you got friends that like those Southsiders, and so do we. And just as disappointing as that is, it is what it is. But you can send your friends to our friends. They can all be friends over at Sox on Tap. So once again, ontapsportsnet.com and at ontapsportsnet on the socials, the On Tap Sportsnet. I'm going to check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Gentlemen, this was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me on this show. It was good to see all of you. We missed our friends Tyler, Joey, and Bobby, but they were here in spirit giving us their thoughts and opinions. We'll be back Sunday after the Boston series. We're off for a week. We're going to go be hooligans and do a lot of crazy, weird shit on our time off. But neither here nor there. We appreciate everybody tuning along with us. We appreciate everybody that stuck along with us here for this 2-hour show. That's pretty habitual of the All-Star break show for us. Gentlemen, what do you guys say? Fuck the Cardinals and let's go Cubbies?
Go Cubbies.
Fuck the Cardinals.
Fuck the Brewers.
Yeah, those guys too. Fuck them.